Tension, tension, tension. Have to master the tenses? But there is no solution. There is a sure short solution, and today we are going to learn that. A very hearty welcome to this mind-blowing platform, Physics Wallah. My name is Nupur Sharma, but I'm not a politician. If you get this joke, alright. But if you don't get this joke, you must start watching news. Now today, as I told you, we are going to learn tenses. Tenses is something which the students often, they are very much scared of this particular topic. They're scared. How do we learn that? It's such a long topic. Now, students often come to me and ask a lot of questions from me. They ask, ma'am, can we learn the tenses in just 30 minutes? Is it a short way to learn the tenses in just an hour? Can we learn it in a day? My answer to them is, beta, you can do anything. You can do it. You can learn it in half an hour. You can learn it in 1 hour. But you have to first, go step by step. First of all, you have to learn the rules. You have to learn the uses. Then only you can understand the tenses. Now, let's find it out how easily we can learn the tenses even after, following all the rules and uses. Now, today we are first of all going to have an introduction. Then we are going to learn the rules. Then the verbs. What are the person and number? Now, when I talk about the person and number, you know what is person and number? It is the usage of S and ES. The students often get confused where to place S and ES. But today, we are surely going to find it out and you will never make a mistake again. Now, the uses of present and past tense, and then we are going to learn the use of future tense. Now, if we read the following sentences carefully, I speak in 2 languages. I spoke to him yesterday. I will speak in both Hindi and English in my class. Just by looking at the sentences, you can tell whether it is in present tense, past tense, or future tense. How did you come to know that it is in present, past, or future? Just by looking at the verb. What are verbs? Verbs are action words. Now, just by looking at this action word, which is speak, you came to know that this is in present tense and this is in past tense and this is in future tense. Now, before knowing how to make the sentences, you must know the V1, V2 and V3. Okay, you must learn the V1, V2 and V3, all the forms of verbs. If you are thorough with it, if you have learned it, you can easily, master the skills of forming the sentences. Now, what are the basics to learn tenses? First of all, you need to learn the structure. The structure is, how do we make the tenses? How do we make the tenses? We use the rules to make the sentences. What are the rules? Rules you have to learn, and we do not learn the rules. This is the problem, We learn the rules in science, we learn the rules in maths. What is the problem? You can also learn the rules in English. Now, usage. If you know the usage, when and why do we use the tense? When and why? Where do we use the tenses? You'll never make a mistake if you know the uses and if you know the structure. First of all, we'll work on the structure and then we'll easily, learn the uses. Now, if we look at the rules, what are the rules? The rules are the same that you have been, seeing from your childhood. Yes, first form of the verb plus S and ES is used in the present simple form. As you know, the tenses are divided into 3 forms: present, past, and future. Present, past, and future. Now, present has also 4 forms: simple, progressive, perfect, and present perfect progressive forms. What is progressive? Progressive is continuous. Continuous. The most easy verb of all. Now, first form, what is the first form? The first form is V1. We simply use V1 in the simple forms. Okay, the simple form. Simple form is also called the indefinite form. The students are often confused that what is indefinite. Indefinite tense is same, simple or indefinite. Okay. Now, the second rule is, am, are plus first form plus ing. Now, I have also given you the examples. We are going to learn it through the examples. This is just a table for your own reference, okay? You can just see the table here. And I have written the rules. Now, has, have plus third form, V3. Third form means the V3. As I already told you, speak, spoke, spoken. Here, speak, speak plus ing, speak plus ing, speaking. V3, what is the V3 form? Has plus spoke, has spoken, has spoken. Then has, have, been plus first form plus ing. Now I am going to give you the example of all these rules. You know, what we usually do is, our mistake is that we, start by learning the rules and we do not look at the examples. If you look at the examples now, you're easily going to learn all the rules. Now, I'll just simply move to the sentences, to the examples. Present tense, I do. I do. Now, what is do? Do is V1. Do is V1. Okay. This is the first rule. I am doing. What is the rule used here? Subject plus, what is this? Is, am, are plus V1 plus ing. First of all, you have to learn the rule. And then you have to apply it in a sentence. Now, in this sentence, we have applied it. I am doing. The subject is I. Am. You know that with I, am comes. Now, V1. What is V1? For example, here it is written do. Do plus ing. Do plus ing. Doing. Now, present perfect. I have done. Subject plus has, have plus V3. Now, this is V3. Do, did, done. Okay. Present perfect continuous. I have been doing. I have been doing. Subject plus has, have, has been, have been plus ing. V1 plus ing. Now, this is the rule. The rules, we have been learning the rules, from, many years we have been learning the rules. But what we do is that we do not apply it in the examples. If you easily apply it in the examples, you're surely going to learn the rules easily. Now, I did. What is did? Did is V2. Subject plus V2. Here, what is the rule? I was doing. Subject plus was, were plus V1 and plus ing. I was doing. Past perfect. I had done. Subject plus had. Now, what do we do in the past tense? We do not use has and have. We use had. Had plus V3. Past perfect continuous. It is subject plus had been plus V1 plus ing. Okay. Is it boring? No, it's not boring. It's not boring if you know the rules already and if you apply it in the sentences. Future simple. Subject plus will or shall. I'll teach you everything. I'll teach you where to use will, where to use shall. Okay. And then we have the V1 form. Then will, subject plus will be plus V1 plus ing. As we can see here, I will be doing. Future perfect. I will have done. Subject plus will have or shall have plus V3. Future perfect continuous, subject plus will have been or shall have been plus V1 plus ing. Now, if we see, if you learn this table, what you have to do today, you have to make this table at your home. Okay, just write one rule. Write one rule, V1, okay, V1 subject plus V1 plus object, okay, and then you write examples on your own. Okay, write examples on your own. As you can see, I have written I do, I eat, I speak to my mother. I is subject, speak is V1, okay, to my mother it's the object. I speak to my mother, I talk to my brother. Okay, now these are the examples that you can use. Now when you look at this sentence, I am dancing, I am teaching to my students. Okay, this is the example. Now present perfect, I have taught this class before. I have taught. No, now what is taught? Taught is V3. Now I have been teaching. I have been teaching this class for how many days? For 10 days. Okay. Now past form is the second form, which is V2. Now the whole concept of tenses rules around, it rules around these rules only. So if you master these rules and if you learn how to apply this, you are surely going to master the tenses. Now, we have already looked at the examples. Now we are going to talk about the person and number. Now this is the mistake that the students make a lot. The uses of S and ES. Now where is S and ES used? As we have already seen, if we talk about simple tense, simple present, if we talk about simple present or present indefinite, what do we see? We see that we use S and ES. Okay, S and ES is used. V1 plus NS and ES. But we are confused where to use S, where to use ES. We are going to clear it today. Now, first of all, we have to see the subject. This depends on the subject. The subject is I, you, he, she, it, they, okay, we. Now, my mother, my brother, my parents, my family, the families. Now, if we look at do, we have taken the example do. Now, how do we use do in the simple form? How do we put do in the simple form with I? I do, you do, he does, she does, it does, they do, we do, my mother does, my brother does, my parents do, my family does, the families do. Now we can take one more example. My friends do. Where do we use do and where do we use does? This is the biggest question. Now if we see carefully, where have we used does? Here, and here. What is the similarity between all these sentences? Why have we used es here? Why haven't we used do here? Why we have put es, after do? He, she, it, my mother, my brother, and my family, all these are singular. Yes, we use s and es with singular. Now, how do we do it? How do we find out that which is singular? He, obviously, what is he? We are talking about just one person. He is singular. She is singular. It is singular. If we talk about Radhika, Radhika is a girl. Okay, Radhika is a single girl. We'll use does with it. Ram is a single person. Single means one person. We use es with it. But if we say Ram and Radhika, now Ram and Radhika are two persons. That is why we use do with it. Okay, that is why we use do with it. So we can hence, find out the conclusion is that we use es with the singular form. But now the students will ask me, why haven't we used s and es with I and you? I and you is also singular, but why haven't we used it? Why haven't we put es behind it? Now I is clearly an exception. I is the first person. With I and we, there is an exception. With the first person, we do not use s and es. Just keep it in your mind. We do not use s and es with the first person. Now, if we talk about you can also be singular. You can also be plural. Now, you are my student. If I am talking about one student, okay, you are my student. But you all are my students. Now I have used you with a single student also, and with a lot of students also I have used you. That is why you can be both singular and plural. That is why we do not put s and es with it. Now you can also take the other examples. Speak, and speaks, so on and so forth. Okay, you can leave it in the comment section that how do we use speak with all these examples. That all these examples are the subject. If you look at the subject clearly, if you look at the subject carefully, you'll understand where do we put s and es and where we do not put s and es. We use s and es with all the singular forms. Now, a question comes to the student's mind. Why have we used es with my family? My family has a lot of members. Now, family is also singular. You have one family. My family. With my family, I have used es. But with the families, family can also be pluralized. Now, with families, I have used do. Similarly with parents. Okay, now with parents we use do, but if we are talking about a single parent, either we are talking about mother, either we are talking about father, in that case, because it is singular, we are going to use s and es. Okay, I hope the person and number is clear to you. Now let's move further. Now, the verbs like personal pronouns has three persons, the first, the second, and the third. I have also elaborated it. I speak, you speak, we speak. Now, you know that we have three persons. Okay, first of all, you should know that there are three persons. What are the three persons? First person. Okay, then the second person. And then the third person. First person, second person, and the third person. Who is the first person? The one who is speaking. The one speaking. Second person is the one listening. And the third person is we are talking about that person. The one we are talking about. The one we are talking about. What is the first person? The first person is I, we. Okay, I is also the first person, we is also the first person. I can be talking if I have another teacher here and we both are talking, then we'll be we are talking. Now, the second person is the one hearing. It is you. You are hearing. Okay, you are the second person. I'm the first person, you're the second person. Now, what is the third person? Who are we talking about? We are talking about the tenses. Now, tenses can be the third person. Now, third person can also be he, she, it, Ram, Radhika. If we talk about the pronouns, it can be he, she, it, they. And if we talk about the nouns, it can be anything. It can be Ram, Radhika, it can be Ram and Radhika, it can be my family, it can be my parents, it can be anyone. Okay, third person is with whom with whom we are talking is the second person, and the one we are talking about is the third person. Now, if it is clear to you, you'll clearly understand that with the first person, we do not use S and ES. With the second person also, we do not put S and ES. We only have to see in the case of third person. Only in the case of third person, we have to find out where we put S and ES and where we do not put S and ES. So, we have a simple rule that with singular, we put S and ES, and with plural, we do not use S and ES. Okay? Now, the verb like the noun and pronoun has two numbers, the singular and the plural. Does, we say, he speaks, we speak. Okay, now the verb has two numbers. The verb has two numbers, singular and plural. I have already told you that. I've already made a chart also. Now you have to learn the chart. Okay, you have to just go through the chart, time and again, so that you can understand that how we have to choose that this is singular or this is plural. If it is clear to you, you'll never make a mistake in the usage of S and ES. Now, uses of present and past tense. First of all, we are going to talk about the present tense. Simple present or present indefinite tense, as I've already told you, there is no difference between simple and indefinite. Okay, it is the same. Subject plus first form of the verb, as I've already told you, the first form of the verb, that is V1. Now, I write, you write, he writes, she writes, it writes, they write. Here we can also see that we have used S with he, she and it. Okay, why? Because he, she and it is singular. Okay, now this is simple. Okay, this is simple. We are just simply using V1. We've also come to know that where do we put S and ES. But now, why do we use a simple tense? Where do we use a simple tense? If you ask these questions to yourself, you're surely going to get all the answers, and the answers are here. Now, repeated actions. In which situations we use the simple tense? Okay, whenever the question comes to your mind, in which situation we use the simple or the indefinite tense, we use it in the cases of repeated actions. We use the simple present to express the idea that an action is repeated or usual. The action which is repeated again and again. The action can be a habit, a hobby, daily events, routines, a scheduled event, or something that happens often. Okay, often means repeatedly. Now, this simple present tense is often used with adverbs or phrases of adverbs of frequency. What are the adverbs of frequency? The adverbs of frequency are always, never, often, occasionally, always, never, often, occasionally, sometimes, normally, seldom, on Mondays, on Tuesdays, every week, every day. Okay, These are the adverbs of frequency. We use adverbs of frequency usually in the simple present form. Now, habits, hobbies, and daily events. Now, my father drinks tea every morning. My father drinks tea every morning. This is his habit. Okay, it's his habit. Oh, that is why we use V1 with it. My father drinks. Now, to learn it, you have to understand you have to underline the verb. My father drinks tea every morning. Now, what is every morning? Every morning is the adverb of frequency. Whenever we talk about the habits, we use V1. Does he play cricket? Now the question comes, does he play cricket? Play. What is play? Play is V1 and does is also V1. Now the question comes, why have we put ES? Why haven't we put, S with play? We haven't put S with play because this is an interrogative sentence. You should also know that how to transform a simple sentence, a positive sentence, into a negative sentence and into an interrogative sentence. I'll also teach you in this class. Now, how do we transform a simple sentence into an interrogative sentence? We put does or do. We put does or do in the starting of the sentence. Does, do plus subject plus V1 plus the object. Okay, now because it is he, we have already put S. We have already put ES. That is why we didn't repeat it. That is why we didn't put it in play. Does he play cricket? Play will come, ES will, we will not put S in it. Okay, I often go to the temple. Okay, I often go to the temple. Now, this is your habit. This is your routine. Okay, this can be your both the things. This can be a daily event, but this is not a daily event. You often go to the temple. Now, I often go to the temple. We have used V1 with it. Do you like to eat parathas? Now, again, we have used an interrogative sentence. Here we used does, and here we have used do because we have used you, and you know that with you we do not put S and ES. She wakes up at 6 every morning. Now wakes up. With wakes up we have put S. Now she wakes up at 6 every morning. Now this is her habit. This is her routine. To describe series of actions taking place one after another. She bathes, has her breakfast, and then catches the bus. When we talk about the actions which happen one after another, and these are habitual. When we talk about the habits, this is her habit. First she bathes, then she has her breakfast, and then she catches the bus. In this case, we have used the simple tense. Now, scheduled events. Scheduled events, we can use the simple present to indicate scheduled events, i.e. actions set by timetable or schedule, because they are predetermined in advance. This is most commonly done when we are talking about scheduled events. Yes, the scheduled events which happen every day at the same time. These are the scheduled events. Public transportation with verbs that express a departure and arrival. Yes, when we talk about departure and arrival of trains, of buses or auto rickshaws or anything, the bus leaves at 6 a.m. This is the scheduled event, that the bus daily leaves at 6 a.m. When do we board the train? Now this is also a question. Here we can see that this is an interrogative question, and here also we have used board. Now here, board. Board is what? Board is the verb here. Do. Okay, the train departs at 2 p.m. every day. Now this is also a scheduled event. Okay, in the case of scheduled event, we have used do. Opening and closing timing of government offices, banks, hospital. Whenever we talk about the opening and closing times of the banks, of the hospitals, of public offices like post office or anything, we talk about the zoo opens at 9 a.m. Now zoo, okay, opens at 9 a.m. because zoo is singular, we have used S and ES with it, and because it daily opens at 9 a.m., that is why we have used the simple form here. Now, when does the bank close? Now, again, we have asked a question. When does the bank close? Here we can see the usage of does. Now, you should know how to, translate. You know how to transform, not translate. Transform the sentences, a positive sentence. Now, these are all affirmative sentences. This is an affirmative sentence. The bus leaves at 6 a.m. This is a affirmative sentence. This is a positive sentence. We have changed this sentence into an interrogative form. And as I've already told you that when we change the sentence into the interrogative form, in the simple present case, we put do and does. And where do we put do and does? We see the subject. If the subject is singular, we put does. If the subject is plural, we put do. You can clearly see it in the examples. I'm repeating time and again. Just try to apply the formula in the sentence and you'll clearly able to understand how do we do it. Now, to indicate facts and generalizations, the general truths, the universal truths, okay? Now, the simple present can also indicate the speaker believes that a fact was true before, is true now, and will be in the future. What is a universal truth? It was true in the past, it is true in the present, and it is going to be true in the future as well. Now, Hamlet is a play by Shakespeare. Now, this cannot be changed because Shakespeare wrote this play, obviously. It's written by, is a play by Shakespeare. Now, is a play by Shakespeare. Now, this is a universal truth. That is why we have put simple present tense here. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Okay? Dogs bark. The sun rises in the east. Honey is sweet. We can see that in all the cases we have used V1 plus S and ES. So this is simple present. Theories and principles. When we talk about the scientific theories and principles, like light travels faster than sound, parallelogram has 4 sides. Okay. Now travels has, now both these, if we talk about both these cases, we have used V1. Professional actions. Professional action is what the person does. What is his profession? A barber cuts hair. Okay, a barber cuts hair. A teacher teaches her students. A teacher teaches her students. Now, teaches is what? It is the simple present form. Okay. Now, to indicate planned future events. Now, you'll ask me, ma'am, do we, need to know all these things? Yes, you need to know all these things. You need to know all the uses. Only if you know all these uses, then you'll clearly be able to, master tenses. To indicate planned future events. What are the planned future events? Speakers usually use the simple present to give information about planned futures. The concert starts at 7 p.m. The concert starts at 7 p.m. Now, this is a future event. And and now you must be thinking that in the future tense, we only use will or shall. But here we have used the concert starts at 7 p.m. We can also say that the concert will start at 7 p.m. But this is another way of putting it. This is another way of putting a future event. We do not use will and shall. We say the concert starts at 7 p.m. This is absolutely certain. When the future event is absolutely certain, in that case we put S here. Our holidays begin on the 25th of December. Obviously, this is quite certain that the holidays will begin on 25th of December. We have not used will here. We have simply put begin. We have simply put V1. We haven't used will to express the future event. In newspaper headlines, now this is something that you usually come across. The newspaper headlines: riots break out in the city center. President receives huge welcome. India first to hit 80% cases in a single day. Queen Elizabeth II dies at 95. Okay, Queen Elizabeth II dies at 95. Now this is a news that you have come across recently. Dies at 95. Now what is dies? Dies is the simple form, and we have put that she dies at 95. This is another way of putting. Okay, she died at 95. You must be thinking that why haven't people put, died in it? But in the case of newspaper headlines, what we use it as a substitute. It can be used as a substitute of the simple past. Okay, to indicate the ability of the subject. Simple present is used to indicate the ability. Okay, whenever we are talking about the ability of the subject to do something, I understand Hindi. I understand Hindi. He speaks 6 languages. Now, when we are talking about the ability, we use the simple present form. Now, present continuous tense. Present continuous is quite, simple to understand. Whenever we are talking about an event that is happening right now, which is taking place at the moment we are doing it, in that case we use the present continuous tense. First of all, you should see the form is, are, am plus V1 plus ing, as I've already told you. Now, first we use the present continuous for things that are happening at the moment of speaking. While we are speaking, the thing is happening, the event is taking place. These things usually last for quite a short time and they are not finished when we are talking about it. Yes, when we are talking about it, it is not finished, it is going on. That is why we put ing with it. I am working at the moment, I am teaching you at the moment, you are listening to me at the moment. Now, these are what? This is present continuous tense. Please call back as we are eating dinner now. Now, usually when somebody, makes a call to you, say, sorry, we are, studying. Sorry, I'm studying right now. I cannot talk to you. Sorry, we are eating dinner right now. We cannot talk to you. Okay, because you're doing it at the moment. You are doing it when the person is calling. The person is calling and you are doing it. That is why in that case, we use ing. Julie is sleeping. Now, Julie is sleeping. She is sleeping at the moment. Okay, so that is why we have put ing with it. We can also use this tense for other kinds of temporary situations, even if the action isn't happening at this moment. Now, as I told you, that it is very simple to find out where do we use continuous thing. But we also use the continuous tense in the case when the action isn't happening at the moment, but it is a temporary situation. Now, what is the situation? John's working in a bar until he finds a job in his field. Okay, John's working in a bar until he finds a job in his field. He haven't found a job yet. He may have found a job, but right now he is working in a bar. He might not be working now. You may be saying this in 6 a.m. in the morning that he is working in a bar. He may not be working at 6 a.m. Okay, he may not be working early in the morning in the bar, but he's working. He's working means he's continuously working in the bar because he hasn't found another job. Okay, I am reading a really great book. I'm not reading the book right now, but I'm reading a really great book. This is a temporary situation because I'm reading it. Okay, so in that case also, you can use I am reading a really great book. She is staying with her friend for a week. She is staying with her friend for a week. Now, this is also a temporary situation. She is only going to stay for a week. In that case, we use the continuous tense. Now, we can use the present continuous for temporary or new habits, the new habits that you have formed recently. For normal habits that continue for a long time, we use the present simple. We often use this with expressions like these days or at the moment when we talk about these days or at the moment. Okay, in that case also we use the present continuous form. Now, you may not be doing it right now, but this is what you're usually doing these days. This is what you're usually doing at the moment. He is eating a lot these days. He may not be eating right now. Okay, but we have still used the present continuous form because he is doing it these days. This is a temporary situation. This is a temporary habit that he has formed recently. He's heating a lot these days. She's swimming every morning. She didn't used to do this before. She's swimming every morning. She's swimming every morning now. She didn't used to do it earlier. You are smoking too much. You are smoking too much. Okay, I meet someone and you say, you're smoking too much these days. Okay, he may not be smoking right now, but I'm complaining to him that you have formed this new habit. I do not like it. You're smoking too much these days. Now, the next uses for definite future arrangements with a future time word. In this case, we have already made a plan and we are pretty sure that the event will happen in the future. Now again, we are talking about the future in the present form. We're talking about the future, but we are actually very certain that we are going to do it. Okay, I am meeting my father tomorrow. Now I am meeting him tomorrow. This is a future event, but still I can use the continuous form because I'm quite certain that I'm going to do it tomorrow. So that is why I say, I am meeting my father tomorrow. We are going to the beach at the weekend. Okay, at the weekend. We are going to the beach at the weekend. Now this is a future event, but we are pretty sure about it. That is why I said it in the continuous form. I am leaving at 3. I'm leaving at 3. Again, it's a future event, but we are saying I am leaving at 3 because I'm pretty sure I'm going to leave. We often get confused in present simple and present continuous. Now we are going to talk about our confusion. We often get confused where to use present simple and present continuous. Now, this is to make sure that you do not repeat the same mistake. These grapes are tasting sour. You're eating the grapes and you say, these grapes are tasting sour. No, this is not the correct way to say it. The correct way to say is, these grapes taste sour. I am thinking you are wrong. Okay, you may be thinking that, I am thinking, because you're thinking right now that you're wrong. No, this is not the correct way of saying. The correct way of saying is, I think you're wrong. She's seeming sad. She's seeming sad. Now this is wrong. This is grammatically wrong. She seems sad. He's having a cell phone. Okay, he's having a cell phone. He has a cell phone. This is not the correct way of saying it. The correct way of saying is he has a cell phone. Now you must be wondering that I am teaching a lot of exceptions. I'm teaching you something which you may have not learned before. Okay, so here I'm telling you that in this class we are going to talk about a lot of exceptions. You must not have read that we can use present simple form or the present continuous form in the case of future events also. But you please make sure that we use it. Okay, you may not be using it in your daily conversations. Okay, you may not be using it right now, but you may be listening it, you may be reading it somewhere. That is why it is very important to teach you this, and you can also use it in your own practice. Now, present perfect tense. What is present perfect tense? Present perfect tense, we use this tense when we want to talk about unfinished actions or states or habits that started in the past and continue to the present. Usually we use it to say how long, and we need since and for. Okay, when, just please make sure that you read it correctly. That started in the past, the events that started in the past, they continue to the present. Usually it gives the answer how long, and we use since and for with it. I have known Karan since 1992. I have known Karan since 1992. I have known him. Okay, I have known him. I knew him before and I still continue to do it. She's lived in Delhi for 3 years. I have worked here for 6 months. I have known Sarika since 2013. I have liked chocolate since I was a child. She has been here since 2 p.m. Now you have seen that in some sentences we have used since, in some sentences we have used for. Where do we use since and where do we use for? Now this is also a very important question, and it's very important to answer it as well. We use since when we are talking about a particular time, for example, 1992. Okay, I have known him since 1992. I have known him for 6 months. In this case, we have used for 6 months. For example, I'll give you a very simple example. I have been teaching since 2013. I have been teaching for how many years? Just calculate the time. I have been teaching for 10 years. Sorry, 9 years. I'm not very good for maths. I have been teaching for 9 years now. When we talk about the duration, yes, when we talk about the duration, in this case, we are talking about a particular time. In this case, we are going to talk about the, duration. For 9 years, 9 months, 9 days, hours. Okay, when we talk about days, hours, years, seconds, milliseconds, in that case, we use for. But when we know the time for certain, 2013, since I was a child, since 2 p.m. Okay, so in that case, we use since. Okay. Now let's move further. We use for with a period of time. Okay, I have written it also. We use for with a period of time. 2 hours, 3 hours, 6 months. I have known Asifa for 10 years. I have been hungry for hours. She has had cold for a week. Now 10 years, hours, a week, months, these all are durations. Okay, we are not going to talk about a particular time here. That is why we are using for in this case. Life experience. We also use a present perfect tense when we are talking about the life experiences. These are actions or events that happened sometime during a person's life. We don't use say when the experience happened and the person needs to be alive now. We often use the words ever and never here. When we are talking about the situation where we use ever and never, we are talking about an event that actually happened, the experience that has happened. I have been to Tokyo. Now in this case, there is a condition. When the person is alive, then we talk about this situation. I have been to Tokyo. Okay, I have been to Tokyo. Now this is something, this is his experience that he has been to Tokyo. They have visited Paris 3 times. They have visited Paris 3 times. Now, this is his experience. We have never seen that film. We have never seen the film. You can also see, have you ever been to Paris? Okay, have you ever done this before? Now, have you ever done this before? In this case, we are also using have plus V3. Have you ever done this before? I'm asking about something that you have done in past. Okay, I'm talking about an experience. I'm asking about an experience. So in that case, I have used ever, and that is why I have used the present perfect tense with an unfinished time word. This month, this week, today, the period of time is still continuing. I haven't seen her this month with an unfinished time. The unfinished time word, this month, this week, this today, it is still continuing. I haven't seen her this month. She hasn't seen her this month. She hasn't seen her till now. She's drunk 3 cups of coffee today. She has drunk 3 cups of coffee today. Okay, so this is something, this is an unfinished time word. Now, we can also use the present perfect to talk about something that happened recently. Even if there isn't a clear result in the present, this is common when we want to introduce news, and we often use the words just, yet, already, recently. When we use the words like just, yet, already, recently, it just happened. When it just recently happened, it has just finished, in that case, we use the V3 form. In this case, we use the present perfect form. The Queen has given a speech. She has just given a speech. I have just seen Lucy. I have just seen. In that, whenever we are using just, we use the present perfect form. He has just gone out. Just means just now. Okay, he has just gone out. In that case, we also use the present perfect tense. Now, present perfect continuous tense. Present perfect continuous tense is what? The thing that started in the past and is still continuing. It started in the past and is still continuing. It hasn't finished yet. In that case, we use the present perfect continuous tense. The present perfect continuous is used for an action which began at some time in the past, okay, and is still continuing. He has been sleeping for 5 hours. He's still sleeping. Okay, he has been sleeping for 5 hours. They have been building the bridge for several months. They have been playing since 4 o'clock. Here also we can use the difference between for and since. Now here we are talking about the duration. That is why we have used for. But in this case we are talking about a particular time. That is why we are saying 4 o'clock. That is why we have used since. Okay, so this began at a particular time, okay, at some time in the past, and it is still continuing. That is why we have used the present perfect continuous form. Now further, this tense is also sometimes used for an action already finished, the action that has already finished. In such cases, the continuity of the activities emphasizes an explanation of something. Now, here comes the exception. You have already learned the previous rule. You have already learned the previous usage, but this is something new to you. Why are your clothes so wet? Why are your clothes so wet? I have been watering the garden. I have been watering the garden. He may not be watering the garden right now. He started it earlier. He was doing it. He is explaining that I have been watering the garden. He is not doing it right now, but still we are using the present perfect continuous form because this is to emphasize as the explanation that what you have been doing. Okay, so I have been watering the garden. Okay, so this is present perfect continuous tense. Now we talk about the simple past or past indefinite tense. Simple past. What is simple past? Simple past, first of all, we look at the formation. I have already told you the formation. In this case, we use the V2. Okay, V2, the second form of the verb. Use the simple past to express the idea that an action started and finished at a specific time. Now, this is very important for you to understand the idea that an action started and finished. It has finished at a specific time in the past. Sometimes the speaker may not actually mention the specific time. When we are talking about an event that has already happened, it has already finished, we may not be knowing the time, but it has already finished. Okay, and we come to know it when we read the sentence. Okay, now as we can see, the action has finished. I saw a movie yesterday. I saw a movie yesterday. Okay, the movie has finished. I've already done this action. I didn't see a play yesterday. I didn't see a play yesterday. Last year, I traveled to Japan. He traveled to Japan. He has already been to Japan. It has finished. This action has finished. That is why we have used simple past in this case. Last year, I didn't travel to Korea. She left school last year. Now, in all these cases, we have used a simple past because the action began at a particular time. It finished at a particular time in the past. Now, a series of completed actions. The actions have been completed and there is a series of that. Okay, it can be first, second, third, fourth and so on. You may have done a lot of actions and all of those have been completed. Then only you're going to use the simple past tense. I finished work, walked to the beach and found a nice place to swim. Okay, all these actions have completed. He arrived from the school at 2, took lunch, got ready at 3 and left for tuition at 4 AM. All these actions he has already done. Okay, he has already completed all these actions. That is why in that case we have used simple past or past indefinite case. Now, duration in the past. Duration, we are talking about duration. Now, the simple past can also be used in the case when we are talking about a duration which started in the past, but it also stopped in the past. It is very necessary. It is very necessary to see that it started in the present and it stopped also in the past. Duration is a longer action often indicated by expressions such as for 2 years, for 5 minutes, all day, all year, even if it is for 5 seconds, even it is for a single second and it is already finished. In that case, we are going to use simple past. I lived in Shimla for 2 years. I studied Sanskrit for 5 years. They played in the park all day. We talked on the phone for 30 minutes. Now, all these sentences, if we talk about all these sentences, we are talking about a certain duration. For 2 years, for 5 years, all day, for 30 minutes, and for how long did you wait for them? We waited for 1 hour. Okay, we are talking about a duration. They started it in the past and they have finished it. She has already lived in Shimla for 2 years. I studied Sanskrit for 5 years. Now, all these sentences, if we see, they have already stopped in the past. Now, habits in the past. Yes, when we talk about the habits that we had in past, the simple past can also be used to describe a habit which stopped in the past. Okay, we started in the past and we stopped that habit in the past. For example, I rode a bicycle when I was a child. He played the drums. He didn't play the piano. I always fought with my brother when I was a child. I never ate an apple in my life. Now, these all are habits. These are the things that we started in the past, but we have already finished this habit. We often add expressions like always, often, usually, never, when I was a child, when I was younger, etc. Now, in all these cases, we again used the simple past tense. Now, I rode a bicycle when I was a child. Now, this thing I did in my childhood. Okay, I used to ride a bicycle. I did it in the past and I completed in the past. Okay. Again, past continuous tense. Now, when you talk about the past continuous tense, the thing that you were doing in the past, okay, the past continuous is used to denote an action going on at some time in the past. The time of the action may or may not be indicated. Now, what do we see? To denote an action going on at some point, at some time in the past. Now, time may not be mentioned, but you can use the past continuous tense. We were watching TV all evening. We were watching TV all morning. It was getting darker. The light went out while I was reading. The light went out while I was reading. Now, this thing has already happened, but she was doing it in the past. She was doing it in the past when a particular thing happened. When I saw him, he was playing chess. When I saw him, he was playing chess. As in the last two sentences. Now, these sentences may be clear to you. It was getting darker. Okay, this started in the past. Now, when we look at these two sentences, what happens? The past continuous and simple past are used together. Now, this is simple past. The light went out. This is simple past. And this is present continuous. Okay, they have been used simultaneously. They have been used together. When a new action happened in the middle of a longer action, the simple past is used for the new action. The light went out while I was studying. Okay, the light went out while I was studying. While the action was happening, the other action happened. Okay, when I saw him, he was playing chess. Okay, when he saw him, he was already playing chess. He was doing something. Okay, so in that case, we will use the past continuous form. Now, the tense is also used with always, continually, etc. for persistent habits in the past. Persistent habits in the past, the habits that we had in the past. He was always grumbling. He was always grumbling. He was always annoyed. Now he was always doing that. Okay, the thing that he always used to do, In that case, we use the past continuous tense. He was always eating jam. This was his habit. He was always eating jam. Okay, there was nobody to stop him. He was always eating it, and this was a persistent habit. Persistence means a continuous habit. Okay. Now, the past perfect tense. There are several situations where the past perfect tense can be used, and we are going to talk about all the cases. Now, to show that an action happened before something else in the past. An action happened before something else happened. Okay, before something else happened. They lost many games because they had not practiced enough. They lost many games. Why did they lose a lot of games? Because they had not practiced enough. Now this is, they lost many games. This is your simple past. Okay? This is your simple past. But they had not practiced enough. This is your past perfect. An action happened before something else happened. I have done my exercise when Hari came to see me. I had done my exercise. I had already done it. The action had already, finished before the other action happened. After the other action happened, Hari came to see me. Now I had already done it. I had already completed it when he came. I had written the letter before he arrived. He had already finished the letter before the other action happened. Okay, to show that an action happened before a specific time in the past. Now here we are going to talk about a specific time. She had completed her schooling before 2008. Okay, she had completed her schooling. The action had already finished before 2008. Before 2008, we are going to talk about a particular time here. He had never played football until last week. Until last week. Now this is a specific time. He had never played football. I had fallen asleep before 8 o'clock. I had fallen asleep. The action had already happened before a particular time, before 8 o'clock. We are talking about a specific time when the action had already happened. Now, past perfect tense can also be used with the word just. Now, as we had seen in the present perfect form, the present perfect form also we use just. In the past perfect tense also we can use just. When combined, this makes it clear that the event was only a short prior. Short prior means just happened. Okay, short prior means just happened. Some example of this include, she had just left the scene when the ambulance arrived. She had just left when the ambulance arrived. When this action happened, this had already happened and this had just happened. Okay, we have specified that it has just happened. The bus had just left when we got to the stop. When we got to the stop, the action had already happened. Just happened. Okay, I had just gone outside when it started to rain. I went out, it started to rain, but I had just gone outside. Okay, so now in this case also we use the past perfect tense form. Now the past perfect continuous form, the past perfect continuous form, the past perfect continuous tense. The action had already happened when the action was going on. Okay, the past perfect continuous is used for an action that began before a certain point in the past and continued up to that time. Okay, this can be a little bit tricky. Okay, when you read the sentence, this can be a little bit tricky, but if you look at the examples, you will be able to understand it. At that time, he had been writing a novel for 2 months. At that time, we are talking about a time in the past when the action had already been going on. At that time, he had been writing a novel for 2 months. When Mr. Mukherjee came to the school in 1995, we are talking about a past event. That when Mr. Mukherjee came to the school in 1995, Mr. Anand had already been teaching there for 5 years. Now we are talking about a past event, and we are talking about something that had been happening, okay, in the past for 5 years. Okay, when you look at the examples, everything starts to make sense. Okay, everything starts making sense. Now you have to, learn it through the examples. Okay, you can make your own examples as well to learn it better. Now, when speaking about regularly, okay, we have come to future tense now. Now, before starting the future tense, I want to ask you that where do you face such kind of problems? Where do you face problems? Okay, you may be facing problems when we use simple past and we use past perfect form. Now we have already finished the present and past tense. Okay, now we are going to talk about the future tense. The future tense is the most simpler form of tense. Okay, now where do we use the future simple or the future indefinite tense? When speaking about regularly occurring repetitive actions in the future, when we are talking about the repetitive actions in the future, I'll visit you every day, I promise. Now, there is a promise. We are going to talk about a promise that I am going to do it in the future. I will visit you every day. She will take English lessons twice a week. Now, this is something that she'll do in the future regularly. She is going to take the classes twice a week, okay? I will go to the temple daily. Now, this is a habit. Now, this is something which I'm not doing right now, but I'm going to start it in the future. That is why I have written, I will go to the temple daily. Now, when speaking about simple facts in the future, the things that we cannot control, yes, when we are talking about something that we cannot control, that is going to definitely happen in the future. It will be cold in December. It will be cold in December. Obviously, it's December. It is going to be cold. That is why we have used will with it. That is why we have used simple future with it. I shall be 20 next year. Now, this cannot be changed. That I shall be 20 next year. Now, this is also future simple. Okay, this is your future simple. Future simple is used for the events that are going to happen in the future. Now, when expressing predictions, when we are talking about the predictions, okay, often the sentences begin with I think or I hope. Now, something that you think, something that you hope for, you will use will. I hope he'll be fine tomorrow. Now, this is something you're hoping that this will happen in the future. Okay, this will happen tomorrow. I hope he'll be fine tomorrow. I think it will rain today. I think Pakistan will win the match. Now, this is something that you're predicting. Okay, now this is something that you're thinking that will happen in the future. Okay, you're hoping it or you're thinking about it. That is why you have used the future simple. When speaking about decisions which are made at the moment of speaking, this is very important to note. The decisions which are made at the moment of speaking, you have just thought about it. Okay, you have just thought about, while you're talking, you have thought about it. You know, I'll take 2 of them. For example, somebody is offering you chocolates. You know, I think I'll take 2 of them. Earlier you were thinking you'll just take 2, you'll just take 1. But now you have changed your mind. You're saying, okay, I think I'll take 2 of them. Okay, you have made this decision instantly. It is raining, I will take an umbrella. Now it is raining, I will take an umbrella. You have just made this decision that you're going to take an umbrella. You have just thought about it. Now, going to. Now, will can be replaced with going to, but where do we use will and where do we use going to? This is a topic of debate. We often get confused where to use going to. We use the going to form, going to plus V1, when we have decided to do something before talking about it. In the case of will, I told you that you have just made the decision. But in this case, you decide to do something before talking about it. Have you decided what to do? Yes, I am going to study seriously now. You've already thought about it. You have not taken this decision instantly. You have, thought about it, that I am going to study seriously now. This is your firm decision that you have already taken, that yes, I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm sure about it. Why do you want to sell your bike? I am going to buy a car. Now this is not something that you have just thought. This is something that you have been pondering, a lot about lately. Why do you want to sell your bike? I'm going to buy a car. Now this is what you have thought earlier. That is why you use going to. You use going to when you are sure that you are going to do it. You have already made your decision earlier. Remember that if the action is already decided upon and preparations have been made, we should use the going to form, not the simple future tense. You are not going to use a simple future tense. You are going to use going to when the action is already decided upon and the preparations have been made. We also use the going to form to talk about what seems likely or certain when there is something in the present which tells us about the future. There is something you're saying in the present, and by seeing this, you make sure that yes, certainly this is going to happen. When you're certain about it, it is going to rain. Look at these clouds. Now you're looking at the clouds. You're looking at the clouds and you're saying it is going to rain. I'm saying it is going to rain. Okay, you will not say it will rain. Look at the clouds, it will rain. No, it is going to rain because you are certain, you are sure about it. She is going to have a baby. Now this is something. She is going to have a baby. You have looked her, you are looking at her. She is expecting a baby. So you can say she is going to have a baby. She will have a baby. Now this is not something that you have just instantly decided. You have seen her. You have seen her condition that she has a belly coming out. Now she is going to have a baby. Now, future continuous tense. Where do we use the future continuous tense? We use the future continuous tense to talk about actions which will be in progress at a time in the future. The thing that would be happening in the future. Okay. The thing that is not going on at the moment, that has not, not completed in the past, but it is going to be in progress at a time in the future. I suppose it will be raining when we start. Okay, when we leave from the house, I suppose it will be raining. Now this will be in the progress in the future. This time tomorrow, I will be writing my exam. Now you are looking at the clock, you are saying, okay, 11 a.m, okay, I would be writing my exam. This time tomorrow, I will be writing my exam. Can I see you at 5 o'clock? Okay, can I see you at 5 o'clock? Please don't come then. I will be watching the cricket match on TV. Now somebody is asking you that, can I come to see you? You are saying, no, I will be watching the cricket match on TV because you're pretty sure about it that you are going to do it in the future. You would be doing that thing in the future. Okay, when that action would happen. Okay, if he comes at that time, you would be watching the cricket match on TV. Okay, so here is where we use the future continuous tense. We also use this tense to talk about actions in the future which are already planned, which are expected to happen in the normal course of things. I will be staying here till Sunday. I will be staying here. Okay, I am going to do it. Okay, he will be meeting us next week. He will be meeting us next week. The postman will be coming soon. Now, this is already decided. The postman will be coming soon. You already know about it, that the postman is going to come. That is why you have used the postman will be coming soon. This is expected to happen. Okay? Now, future perfect tense. The future perfect tense is to talk about actions that will be completed by a certain future time. By a certain future time, that would be done. That would have been started and that would have been completed. Okay, I shall have written my exercise by then. You are sure that I shall have written my exercise by then? You are talking about an action that will be completed, that hasn't completed yet, that will be completed by a certain time in the future. When we are talking about a certain time, he will have left before you go to see him. He will have left before you go to see him. That action would have been completed in the future. By the end of this month, I will have worked here for 5 years. Now, by the end of this month, you're talking about a specific time. At that specific time, the action would have been completed. I will have worked here for 5 years. Okay? Now, this is where we use the future perfect tense. Now, we come to the future perfect continuous tense. In the case of future perfect continuous tense, now this tense is something that we do not use, usually we do not, it's not very common. Okay, now this is something that we do not use very commonly, but we use it. Sometimes we have to use it. The future perfect continuous tense is used for an action which will be in progress over a period of time that will end in the future. Okay, that would be the thing that would be happening, okay, over a period of time that will end in the future. It will start in the future and it will end in the future. By next March, we shall have been living here for 4 years. Now, when we read this, we get confused. But when we saw the example, it is absolutely clear. This is magic. This is the magic of learning tenses. When we read the rules, when we read the uses, we think, okay, yaar, this is something which is not possible. This is not something which is possible to learn. But we can learn it easily through examples. By next March, we are talking about the future event. By next March, we shall have been living here for 4 years. We shall have been living here 4 years. They will continue to do so. They will continue to do so. They have been living, would have been living for 4 years and they will continue to do so. In that case, we use the future perfect continuous tense. I'll have been teaching for 20 years next July. I'll have been teaching for 20 years next July. Now we are talking about next July. Next July is something. We're talking about a specific time in the future. And I will have been teaching for 20 years. Okay, I'll continue to do so. And I will be continuing to do so. That is why we have used the future perfect continuous tense. If, my students, you face any problem in tenses, what you simply have to do is that you look at the rule, you look at the use, and you try to frame a sentence. First of all, you see the example that is available. Okay, you try to find it out. Okay, is the rule, clearly placed in it? Is the use that I have already learned, is it being used here? Okay, and can I make a similar sentence? If you are able to make a similar sentence by just looking at the structure and the usage, you have mastered the skill of tense by then. Okay, I hope the tenses are clear to you. And now, what I want you to do is that I want you to leave the comments below that whether you understood it or not. First of all, as I told you, what you have to practice making your own sentences. But if you're not able to do so, please feel free to, write the comment and I'll definitely reply on that. Okay, thank you for this lovely session and we'll meet in the next session. Okay, till then, bye-bye. Take care.